childhood up, we have had to conform to a certain social game. And so we're in a constant state of competition. This is the secret. You can't make a mistake.
Welcome, everybody, to Friends of Failure. I'm your host, Sam, and this is Megan.
Heyo.
I'm really excited to introduce our guest today. He is our graphic designer, Jef Caine. How you doing today?
Hello. Yeah, doing well. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, 100%. We really appreciate you coming on with us today. Love the hat, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
I couldn't actually tell what it was at first. It was a little unclear.
Is it a cat? Is it a toboggan? Is it right? So we appreciate you coming out today. One thing I wanted to bring up before we got started today, after people get to know a little bit about you through our podcast, I'm sure they're going to want to try to find you. So I wanted to bring up that you do have a website that is a great way to interact with you, and it's jefcaine.com. But if I understand correctly, a lot of people probably know you from TikTok.
Yeah, that's actually how I found him. It was just, the luck of the For You page. I was scrolling along and I saw an awesome video and I just kind of got sucked in, found some cool graphics. And then he had his website link in there, and then he designed our whole album cover. Here we are.
How many hours or how much time did you have to spend staring at our faces to create the graphic?
Oh man. That's a good question. I didn't keep track of the hours.
Too long.
But yeah, I used multiple different screenshots for reference, kind of, some tracing, some eyeballing, spent a lot of time in the crevices.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
no needs
just
to, be
to
in
get
there.
that detail, right? Yeah. Really make sure people could tell who we were. Well, I love it. I know Megan does as well, so we appreciate that. I was kind of curious. So can you tell us a little bit more about like your experience with TikTok?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pretty new thing for me. Basically just started at the beginning of 2021. I had been, on the outside looking in for quite a while, and of course was, very intimidated by it. It made me feel like I was old and out of date because I didn't understand it, and the younger generation is taking over, so that whole existential crisis. But anyway, I wanted to kind of like force myself to learn it and kind of figure out how to use the app to edit videos and find a way to like get people's attention to promote myself. Because I'd been on Instagram and my website and just other ways to try to get my work out there before. Anyway, yes. So I'd been creating. It was sort of like a New Year's resolution for me to get into TikTok and try to make a go at promoting myself that way. So I'd put stuff on there of like, I had like my animation reel, and like I had this idea that I thought was really cool of doing 100 GIFs set to the band 100 gecs, just to like show off like my body of work. Here's a way I can squeeze just a ton of content into one like really short video with this really chaotic music. Yeah, I know. And that, that didn't get any traction at all, of course, because it's never the ones you expect. And then as I was, thinking about what's an example of like failure that has led to success or new opportunities in a different way, I ended up, so I was moving cross country beginning of this year, moved from Arizona to South Dakota, and packed up a U-Haul full of all our stuff and was driving out of Arizona, and we got a snowstorm, very unexpected for Arizona. Ended up getting somewhat stuck in the snow, and then trying to get out, crashed my U-Haul into the ditch.
Oh my gosh.
And not a fun place to be at the time. Pretty frustrating situation. And then ended up just having to wait around a couple days for someone who could actually tow it and pull me out of there. So I was just at a hotel in Payson, Arizona for a couple days, and had nothing to do. So I was on my phone on TikTok all day, and I had all this footage on my phone from like kind of my last month in Arizona when I was getting everything packed up and stuff. So I put together a video that was just about sort of my experience, kind of this listless feeling of moving on, and all the the ways I was going to miss home and feeling kind of lonely and stuff like that. And that was the video that like really blew up in a way that like none of my videos had before. And that's what kind of got me a bunch of followers and got me motivated to just really put a lot more production and attention into my TikTok presence. And then since then it's people like you, and I've had just like other job opportunities come from people who have found me on TikTok and reached out. So
that's exciting.
That's awesome.
Do you know how many videos you had made on TikTok? I mean, you said it was like a New Year's resolution. So how many videos did you have before you got to that point? I mean, I
could go back and count. I don't know, probably just a handful, and it was all, I'd say before that point, most of the videos I'd made were just explicitly about like, I was kind of treating it the same way I treated Instagram, as far as like, I'm just wanting to showcase my work. So like, I wasn't like putting like footage of my face or like, narrating with my voice or anything. Before that, it was just like showing, hey, here's something I made, treating it like a portfolio, which is like kind of what I wanted to do. And then this video, I guess, was different because it was more of like,
it's more vulnerable, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. More vulnerable, more of like just my own personality. And like talking on mic was something that I think I hadn't done before, because that was something interesting. Was like, I got a bunch of comments of people saying, oh, I really like the sound of your voice, which was very strange for me to hear, because I'd always like been really self-conscious about my voice before making that video. And so that was kind of a neat thing. It gave me confidence to like make more videos like that, where I'm doing the voiceover, and just being able to feel confident about doing that kind of thing.
It's got to be way more. Yeah, it's got to be way more fun too, of being able to put more, like, instead of treating it like it's a job, you get to treat it more of it's a fun way for you to interact with people who could enjoy working with you, right? Or enjoy your work. I do find it strange, right, where you made something that was kind of showcasing all your work and people are just like, but then like you were able to get vulnerable, and they now all of a sudden it's like, hey, I kind of want to know more about this person, right?
Yeah.
I won't lie to you. I feel the same way about, TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff. Like, there are people that enjoy Facebook, but at some point I just, it's just my friends and family just posting like, memes all the time. And then Instagram felt like a lot more people were trying to, even if it was like of the food they were eating or like the workout they were doing or whatever, I felt like I was getting a little bit more of a personal experience. But when TikTok came out, I had no idea what was going on with that. And when I would ask people about it, they're like, oh yeah, these kids basically have just taken over this like social media. And I got on there one day because one of my friends said, when you get on there, if you're not paying attention, you'll fall into the void.
Oh yeah.
And you could literally go forever. You just allow it to happen and you can go forever.
But what's successful in TikTok always interests me. It's crazy because now, like, I've seen some of your graphic design stuff has crazy high views. It just took a few videos that hit that right trend or whatever's going on in the background, and now you're getting to the right people, and it blows my mind. Like, I don't know how it works, but it is kind of set up that you're gonna fail. You're gonna have videos that don't do great, and it doesn't mean the video is not good. It just means it just means maybe
the algorithm is not personal. If you take the algorithm personally, it's a recipe for
I've definitely done
despair. Yeah, me too.
Dark hole.
Yeah, I feel that. On Instagram, I've had people talk to me about they would have videos coming out and they're like, oh wow, I'm getting traction. So they'd start trying to lean into maybe like their their niche or whatever, and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden the views just stop. Like they stop getting the traction, and they're like, what did I do to the algorithm? And I don't think there's rhyme or reason sometimes, you know. You just have to kind of keep trying until something just takes, I think. um that's pretty exciting though, to be able to finally have that moment, right, where like you did it. um Other than that video, have you had any other videos that like took off that you were surprised about, or at this point now they're all kind of the same, where you post
Uh,
something and it just goes?
no, I mean, it's still, I mean, I get more views in general, of course, than when I started because I have more followers now, though it is still pretty chaotic and unpredictable of what's gonna blow up or what's gonna get the most views. Like the video that is like gotten the most views ever was one of me doing kind of a skit about client relationships. I don't know if you guys have seen that
I've
one.
seen that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where
With
when you're designing a logo and the client asks for 3 options, and then the designer is like trying to sort of sabotage options 2 and 3 because they're too lazy. Like me as the designer, I'm like too lazy to like actually put any work into 3 different logos. So I'm like, I'm just gonna make one really good, and then
Mhm.
2 and 3, and so they'll have to just pick one. And of course, that always backfires because the client always picks the worst one or the one you like the least.
They're like,
Um,
I love it, let's do it. Wow.
yeah, yeah,
uh,
exactly. I think that one, but yeah, I didn't expect that one to blow up as much as it did, but I can see why now because just so many graphic designers out there have that experience. I mean, it was amazing to see how many comments I got of like, "This is so relatable. This happens to me every single time." Or actually, I got a lot of comments that said, "This is why I quit. This is why I don't do graphic design anymore." Which
No
I
kidding.
that's
was
kind
pretty
of
surprised to hear
sad.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I was a
'Cause
little saddened to hear that too.
yeah, there's definitely going to be bumps with clients, but it would be sad if that's your passion and that ruins it for you. Just, a bad interaction. But I guess that
Yeah,
goes for anything. Yeah.
absolutely. I suppose they probably had more than one bad experience that kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
pushed them off the edge, but yeah.
I so as a personal trainer for a while, I'm a person that really enjoys working out. It's something that's a part of my daily routine. It's like
Hmm.
a stress relief thing for me. Um, and I would train clients, and you would hear stories about trainers who they would quit. Like they were like, I can't take this anymore. And part of it was just like the corporate world of gyms, but the other part is,
Hmm.
like whether you're a graphic designer, like a musician, whatever it is, you have a really strong passion for something, and they try to turn it into something where like it's your
A
livelihood.
career.
And then
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and then like I know nothing about graphic design, so without
Hmm.
even knowing, I could accidentally be like, oh well, blah blah blah, and it's like maybe not offensive, but you know what I'm saying, where you put in so much work, and a
Well,
person from the
you're
outside
saying
looking
like
in has.
the client has no idea like
Yeah,
what
yeah,
is
that's
going
true.
on.
Right. And it's the
Uh,
same thing with like, most things, right? Where you have that one skill and you're utilizing it, and the people who need you to have that skill, they have no idea. And
Yeah,
you're like,
absolutely. That's
yeah.
true. I got some comments from people like there's some comments who were saying, "Oh, I'm the client character, and I just want to apologize."
Oh
Oh
gosh.
wow.
At least
Uh,
they're honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Or like thank you for like showing me. I didn't realize that this bothered people as much as it did because I didn't know. Um and then of course I got a lot of comments pointing out that like I'm not innocent either, which like I because I was the one who like lazily just threw together options 2 and 3. So I thought that went without saying, but then I ended up doing like a whole kind of apology video
Oh my gosh.
because I got so many comments saying that. Yeah.
Uh
Oh,
when did you start graphic designing?
Uh, Boy, I suppose I've probably been doing it almost 10 years now. Since I graduated college when I was 21, and started like, I mean, I didn't get graphic design jobs right out of school, but I just was working day jobs, and then I would like do friends' wedding invitations, stuff like that. I had a Tumblr for a long time
oh,
where
Tumblr.
yeah. Yeah, where it was mostly just like drawings. I would just, draw the whatever like movie character I was interested at the time and then like write down some song lyrics from whatever song I was listening to at the time. So, sort of my emo experimental, not getting paid at all, but just putting all the emotion out there on the page phase.
Your humble beginnings. Yeah, kind of that artist phase. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
absolutely.
the grind to build. Well, and I mean, I guess it's important to be able to be creative outside of work, right? Like it's a passion for you. Is Tumblr still a thing, by the way?
It's still a thing, but it's not as good. Yeah.
Yeah. It still exists for sure.
I remember they changed it and people were outraged. I don't know why, but they were
took
outraged.
porn off of it.
Yeah, I remember here that was like a big thing that they got rid of porn on Tumblr. Which
and everybody was like, "Well, we're out."
I didn't realize that was a thing before they got rid of it, but yeah,
it was a sad day.
I think it's crazy too how Vine seemed really, really successful and super popular. I mean, all the time I was like, "Have you seen this Vine video? Have you seen this Vine video?" And then one day, my buddy was like,
TikTok, yeah.
Well, it was like Vine's dead, and now TikTok popped up a couple of weeks later, and then now it's been around ever since, or
pretty much. I think there might have been a gap. I don't remember in between the Vine and the TikTok days, but a lot of the creators transferred from Vine over to TikTok. So
I didn't know that.
Some of them you can find people that decided to like ride it out on the new platform. But it's a weird platform to break into, I think, just for anyone in general. What has been the most like shocking or difficult thing about running that kind of page and content?
Oh, the unpredictability, I suppose. There's what I said earlier was you can't take it personally when the algorithm like doesn't choose to promote your video, but of course I do, because I have those feelings when like I work really hard on a video, like I put a lot of time into the production of it, and I just know this one's going to be a hit, and then it just falls flat. That's tough because there's sort of multiple levels of that. First, there's the initial like bummed out feeling of, oh, I didn't get the numbers I wanted, and then there's kind of the existential feeling of like, why do I care so much about numbers? Am I just like a terrible shallow person because I'm fixating on social media numbers?
It's just part of our culture now, which is, it's hard because it doesn't matter. Like in the end, we can get deep on here and we'll talk about how it really doesn't matter. Like we're all going to die someday, but it does feel nice and like kind of rewarding to have your work appreciated, because that's how I view the numbers, is like, hey, someone else enjoyed something I put together.
Yeah. Well, it feels like a means to an end too, right? Like, I mean, because you're doing it partially to, grow a business, right? Like your brand. And so I could see how that's disappointing of, okay, well, why didn't you guys like it? Right? Like, what do you want from me? Is like the feeling I get, which I post stuff and it's like 6 people liked your post. I'm like, yeah, all right, nailed it.
Yeah, I made Sam sign up for TikTok and it's going.
I'll be honest with you. When you brought up how it was kind of your New Year's resolution and you kind of had an idea already, right? It was like, hey, we should start a TikTok and have another way that people can interact with us. It's horrifying. I did post a video on there, and that's as far as I got.
It's hard to put yourself out there because especially like if you're just like not quite sure if the video works, it's like you're trying to be funny, but you're like, I'm not sure if this is funny or whatever it is, and like all you can do is put it out there and see, and then it's there I mean, you can take it down obviously, but
I feel that because I sent you, Sam, that sea monkey video that I made. He didn't get it. And I was like, it's gonna flop. I'm not putting it up. Basically, I like bought sea monkeys because I found them at a store, thought I killed them, and then they survived. So it was a funny little thing. I showed it to him and my husband, and both of them had different reasons of why they didn't get it. And I was like, I give up. I'm done.
I didn't realize that they were sea monkeys for some reason. And I was like, what is happening here? And I think it's an overthinking too for me, where I go, okay, what is my purpose? And if I'm trying to be funny, as soon as I try to be funny, I feel like I'm not funny anymore. Right?
Yeah.
It's like as soon as someone goes, "Oh wow, I really liked what you just did. Do it again." I'm like, I don't know what I did. I have to go now. And then,
I have a question. So on your animations, there's so much range. Where do you kind of pull that from? I don't think we've talked about that yet.
Like what, like different styles of
Yeah.
drawing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose that probably a lot of that comes from graphic design background. I didn't really start animating until the past year or so. I guess a little bit more. Basically, in quarantine, that was sort of like a quarantine project for
Okay.
me. It was like learning how to animate. It's been something I've been wanting to take the time to do for the longest time, and this was like the perfect opportunity because there's nothing else to do. Um, but anyway, yeah. So I guess being graphic designer and working for all these different clients and doing some that are more like fun hand-drawn illustrations versus some that are more like clean vector hard line type stuff, that's going to be a much more smooth style of animation, whereas the hand-drawn could be like that squiggle vision look that I do a lot, where it's like each frame is a new drawing, so the lines have this really chaotic jittering texture to them. So yeah, it depends on the project for what the client's for. Sometimes people say, "Oh, we like this really scratchy style that we've seen you do before, so can you incorporate that?" Or sometimes it's more professional, or it's like it's for like a children's program, and we want it to be this more like clean, bright color, cutesy look.
Yeah.
So yeah, I suppose that there's that, and I don't know. I guess I'm just like see different things and am inspired by different things and kind of I get like really obsessed with like a certain style at a certain time and just do everything in that style. So I have like a couple different styles I can kind of pull from now from past
cool.
experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then in kind of the creative process, are there things that you work on for a little bit and they just don't work out, or you put them on a back burner? That's kind of how I am with stuff sometimes.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely with like personal projects or like projects that like don't have a deadline, that sort of inevitably happens. I feel like, with client projects where there is a deadline, I don't exactly have time to put it on a back burner. I kind of just need to pump it out, and maybe it's not as good as it could have been if I had unlimited time to work on it. But yeah, absolutely. With personal projects, there's always like kind of like a list of stuff I like want to get to someday that, who knows if we'll ever get there.
Yeah, I feel that. Starting projects is I think the easy part, but sometimes life kind of gets carried away and we lose sight of like our personal things. I mean, are there any projects that you were really passionate about and you were working on it and then life got in the way and you were never able to get back to it? Or were you able to ever like fight your way back to it?
Yeah, I suppose a big one for me is doing murals. Like before COVID hit, I was trying to pick up that side of my career where I had an opportunity to do a couple different wall murals where I just got to take Sharpie markers and just like cover an entire white wall with a bunch of like little doodle style illustrations. Yeah, it was really fun and I really loved it. And I was trying to like get more opportunities to do that, like reaching out to different places and seeing if they needed murals or anything. And at the time I was thinking this is like the most strategic thing to do because there's so much digital art out there and there's so much competition like in the digital space that maybe this is a way that I can like have a competitive edge and differentiate myself because I can offer like something that can't be just copy pasted and duplicated. It's like a live drawing in a physical space. And anyway, so I was really pushing for that, and then COVID hit. I was stuck inside. Some of the mural projects I was trying to get lined up, of course, just got canceled because everything got canceled.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, that was sort of when I took the opportunity to focus on learning animation, which was another thing that like I'd been wanting to do and just had kind of been putting off because I was, lazy or didn't have the time for it until then. So
it kind of worked out. It took you in another direction. And even though you really wanted to do this one thing, you got to achieve a different thing on the list. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it became a new, it was, sort of the hard work of learning a new skill for a time, but it was also just the really exciting feeling of, opening up this whole new arena of things I can experiment and learn and try new things. So yeah, it's been a really exciting thing. And of course, yeah, I'd love to get back to the mural thing. That's they sort of switched places of like now murals are kind of on the back burner because like all the gigs I've been getting have been more animation related.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you got the opportunity, say someone contacted you on TikTok and they were like, "Hey, we want you to be an animator on a cartoon," would you do it?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to
That's a pretty big
see.
project, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did like put in an application at one point for Nickelodeon, just in general. Like they were hiring like animators, so I filled it out. It seemed like a super exciting thing. I would certainly like be excited at the opportunity. I wonder how much I would like it in the long run because I have a feeling that it would be very tedious, monotonous work, and it would be very little creative
freedom. Yeah.
Creative freedom on my part because I would be just having to match the aesthetic of some TV show that already existed.
Yeah.
Right.
You'd be kind of confined into a specific task or role, and it wouldn't be quite the same because you do mainly freelance, right?
Yeah, mainly freelance, and most of the stuff I do is very short form. Like a lot of stuff I do is animated GIFs, so those are going to be like 3 seconds the loop. So very short form, and I do definitely enjoy that because it's fast turnaround. It's kind of the instant gratification of I can draw something and animate it within a couple hours and have a finished product. Versus a more long form thing like a TV show or a movie. Obviously, it takes a whole lot more time. And it requires a whole new level of discipline.
Yeah, it doesn't burn you out on it. You're not spending like 40 hours a week on the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
Do you so as a person that's an artist, do you have like an animated show that you really enjoy because of the animation itself? I mean, it obviously helps if you like the jokes or the story or whatever, but just in terms of the animation, is there anything that you're really drawn to?
Oh yeah, a bunch of stuff. I'd say Samurai Jack on Cartoon Network. I don't know if you guys have watched that show, but
I've seen bits and pieces.
I really love the way that show is stylized. Like the design of the characters and the illustrations are so minimal, and there's even just I'd say like minimal sound design. Also, there's a lot of just open space, and it just feels like very intentional and very different from most like kids cartoons, I would say, in general.
For sure.
Aesthetically. Another one that I really loved was Midnight Gospel. Have you guys heard of that show?
I watched that. Yeah, it's based on a podcast, right?
You're right. Yeah.
And it's very trippy animation. I love it.
Yeah. Same here. I mean, that show, I actually didn't even get through it. Like I didn't love the.
Yeah.
I guess there's no story, which is weird because like I listen to a lot of podcasts too. So it seemed like the perfect marriage of like, I listen to podcasts and I love animation. And it's created by Pendleton Ward, the guy who created Adventure Time. But the show is more for adults and more like exploring kind of existential ideas and philosophy and stuff like that. And the animation is just completely
kind of
nuts.
random.
Like random. It feels like the conversation is just middling and random, and it can go anywhere. And so the animation kind of follows suit with that. And I mean, yeah, it's incredible work for sure.
Yeah, it's a unique concept for sure. Yeah.
I would try to watch it before I'd go to sleep, and then I realized it would start instigating
thoughts.
like I would watch it and then I would try to turn it off and just close my eyes and go to sleep. And I was like, I've got too much to think about now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I last I had heard, because it's been a while since I've watched it, they only did like the one season, or did they keep going with it?
I believe there's only one season on Netflix. Yeah. I'm not sure if they're planning to continue or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool that they were able to do that project in the first
Mhm.
place. Um,
What Sam's
You know,
leading
they-
up to is you animating our whole podcast, which would just be a nightmare.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
I mean, that would definitely be something worth trying. Especially when the conversations start getting, I mean, we never know what direction we're going to go in.
Yeah.
It's because, failure just is overarching and reaches so many areas. We've been kind of all over the place in a good way. Yeah.
Yeah, I find it funny too, of when we started this whole process, I started thinking about all my failures, right? And I
Mhm.
started thinking about them in a different light. Like, okay, think about your failures, but look at them from the most positive way you can.
Mhm.
And I think the ones that are hard to process and look at as a positive would be the ones where maybe you never persevered, right? So the one for a
Yeah.
long time for me was college. I kept going
Mhm.
back. I kept feeling like I was supposed to go back, but I had no end game. I had no reason other than, I'm gonna keep going back until one day I decided it wasn't leading me anywhere, because I never decided it would, and that just felt kind of like this failure that would never get resolved, until I looked at it from the light of, hey, I learned something from it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, have you ever had anything like that in your life, where it was something like you kept going after it and it just turned out to not be something for you?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a really good point. The idea of like not every failure like has this happy ending or this twist of like, oh, and it all worked out because
Right.
some other thing happened. Um, boy, I mean, for the most part, I feel very fortunate for like the kinds of clients I've got in my career as a freelancer. But yeah, I certainly have had clients where it's just the way they worked, the level of feedback and the level of like sort of just over the shoulder design by committee type stuff. It's just like I feel like I've put so much time into this, and I did exactly what you asked for, and you still have feedback for me, and it's just I just want out. It's like I don't even care about the money anymore. I just want out.
It
Not to
feels,
say I didn't.
it feels like people you can't please, basically, right?
Exactly. Yeah. There's just sometimes there's gonna be that way. And like I don't even want to like demonize the people who like have that, because obviously they have their creative vision for this project, and it might just be that it's not a good fit. Like
Right.
the style of work that I'm making is not exactly how they pictured it, and no amount of feedback is gonna make me make what they want.
Yeah.
So I feel like
That's gotta
that's
be hard.
yeah, for sure. And I think that can be sort of a similar feeling of like maybe there's no lesson to learn here, or it's I don't know, like maybe I did just waste a lot of time and I should have quit earlier, or you know what I mean? That,
Like choosing your battles a little
choose
bit.
your battles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Choose when to just let something go and move on.
Yeah.
That's fair. And I was talking to a friend of mine earlier today, and they asked, like, well, what are some of your insights about failure? And one of the things that got brought up is, I think where my passion for the topic comes up is, you look at how the world treats failure. I mean, the
Hmm.
smallest little, miscalculation or whatever it is, it's like, oh, well, it's all doomed. And I mean, that's the only way we're going to grow, right? And sometimes it feels like we're always rushing to a finish line, but I mean, it's a one shot go. And so, what are we rushing for? And I think that's where I beat myself up about, again, to bring up TikTok, is it's a simple thing, in my opinion, of you just have to kind of throw your shots into the dark and see what works for you as
Yeah.
I guess, as a creator. So I don't really create stuff, right? And now I'm trying to pretend like I do.
He's new to it. Yeah.
I'm new to creating things on purpose, right? I mean, I like to write sometimes, but
but of course
I'm
you
not
are a creative person, right? Because you have a podcast where you can just talk for an hour, right? So
that's his talent. Yeah, he's really good at talking.
Like you're
I'm
a
a
person
talker,
who can talk and who has ideas and can articulate their thoughts. Like before I started TikTok, I always thought, I don't know how I'm gonna do this because I'm not the type of person, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not the type of person who can just like point the phone at my face and just like talk for a minute and get an idea out there and have the idea be so compelling that like, it's worth watching for someone else. So I always thought I need to like, you know, punch this up a little bit by adding extra B-roll footage and animation and music and stuff like that. Whereas like someone like you has that ability to just be a talker. So like a TikTok could just be, you know, the camera pointed at your face and you talking for a minute.
There you go.
I think
just
that
wrote your winning TikTok right there.
Yeah, I'm like, I have to go, guys. I have this thing. I'll be back later. No, that's 100% fair. I would have to agree with you. I would say that I am creative in conversation. If you don't stop me, I'll go forever. You know, until bedtime, and then I insist I have to sleep.
Sure.
You know, and that's a good point. You know, I picture people sometimes who they become obsessed, right? Where creating content, whatever it is, whether it's music, art, whatever, and you know, they'll make something 1,000 times before they make that 1,001 where they're like, okay, this is what I was trying to create. And then nobody gets to see all the ones before it, you know, where, you know, you hear about the overnight success of, oh, wow, it must be great. So-and-so is a multi-millionaire basketball player, as if they just walked up onto a court and they were like, check this out. And they did it, right? Like they didn't spend their childhood and their early adult years just committed to
a craft. Yeah.
You know, I mean, those people that are good at their craft failed so many times to get to that point of going, okay, I'm an expert. So, you know, I've been talking since I was born, and you know, I want to get better.
Out of the womb, like in the hospital room.
Hey mom, hey dad, I'm gonna go hit up the hospital staff, see how it's going.
That brings up a question though. I was going to ask, when did you decide you wanted to be a graphic designer? For me, I did like AP art in school and all of that, and I got too scared. I was too intimidated by how competitive that scene is. And I like looked around at everyone else's canvases or on their computers, and I was like, they're all way better than me. What was that moment for you, or like how'd you get to that point?
I'd say it was in college. I mean, because when I was younger as a kid, I always loved to draw, and I always knew I wanted to like do something with visual art. You know, like if you asked me what I want to be when I grew up, when I was like 10, I probably would have said an artist, like a painter, because I had just kind of a more narrow view of like, that's what an artist is just like someone who paints portraits,
like Bob Ross or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Please be the next Bob Ross. We all need it.
Oh man,
you actually would be perfect with your voice.
I love that.
And wear your little hat and like just go for it. Wow. There you go.
Yeah,
consider
I love
it.
That.
Just consider it. That's all we're saying. Just consider it.
Anyway, another project to put on the back burner.
There you go.
Yeah,
I'm all about it.
I would say that I'd heard of graphic design, but I didn't like really think about what it was before college, and just I went in undeclared and took some graphic design classes and really enjoyed it and sort of focused there. Yeah, sometimes I think that maybe that was a concession on my part of like, what I really wanted to do was be an illustrator, but I didn't have the confidence. I felt like, I can't draw good enough. I'm not like classically trained in drawing. So graphic design is easier than illustration in my mind, because it's like just moving assets around the canvas and working with typography and photos and stuff like that, versus like illustration where you have to make all this stuff yourself.
Yeah, I feel that. So that painting right there.
Yeah.
I did that for part of my AP course, whatever it was. The feedback, I read it when I was doing this mural a while ago from my teacher, still written on the back. And he said, it was too simplistic. It wasn't real enough. It wasn't blah, blah, blah. It's a mountain with eyes and a mouth. Like I was not trying to make it real. It was like very cartoony style. And that was when I like part of why I was just like, maybe I'm not here for this because I'm not good at making someone look like a person, like when I put it on the paper, or making a dog look like a real life dog. And that kind of killed it for me. But you found your own path to be like, I can still do that stuff just in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow,
quick
it looks amazing to me. But
Mr. Kitchen didn't like it.
Is that in college or was that?
That was high school.
It was high school. So both of you, I mean, Jef, at one point you were saying things. I'm like, I think I know what that means, but it was like you were speaking a different language.
Okay.
So I did art class, right? Not to brag, but in 8th grade. And my teacher, she was very straightforward and upfront at the beginning of the semester of, hey, you don't have to be perfect, right? Like just try, follow the parameters of whatever the project is and do your thing. And after she saw my first project, it was kind of like the pat on the head and like, you're doing great, buddy. And then she walked away and I was like, I am not doing great. This is really bad. I've always admired people that have the ability to draw anything, right? Like I all the way to the hyper realistic, people or places or whatever, where literally you look at it and you go, oh my gosh, is that a Polaroid or is that someone drew it? All the way to the, silliest animations that I can think of, right? And that's just not for me. I think if I really, really wanted to, and like, let's say you were my mentor and you tried to teach me what you knew, and I dedicated my entire life to it, maybe I could do it like a
Sure. It's a skill
know.
it's a skill you could learn with practice. Absolutely. I mean, I would say
think I can
I'm
handle
also envious of people who can just draw anything. Like I certainly don't feel like I can just render something, especially not photorealistically.
Sure. Where they like
sometimes
become a machine and they just do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, a highly skilled machine. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But I've had people compliment me and where they say like, "Oh man, I love your style. I love how it's kind of like trippy and the faces are sort of distorted. I love that you do that." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, thanks. I did that on purpose."
You're like completely intentional. Thanks.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, I think it works perfectly. And the hard thing is like our culture and social media, whatever you want to call it, we're always compared to others, or we're comparing ourselves to others.
Oh,
Because I'm sure your feed has like a lot of artists on it and you're seeing what they're doing. And it's never going to be the same as yours, but it doesn't mean one is better than the other.
Yeah. Or like when people that are younger than me that are like way better than me.
Well, that makes me mad
always
too,
gets to
and
me.
that's
Yeah.
okay. You're allowed to be a little annoyed with that, but
Just slightly frustrated. I'm in my 30s now and I go to the gym a lot and I'll see people and I go, wow, like they've really put in some work, right? Like, look at them go. And then you realize like, no, they're just younger and they're like getting after it. And so their body's like, yeah. And my body, I still feel really young, but I already feel like my body's like, yeah, man, you had a good run. You did a good job, bud. You can go sit down on that bench over there. And I'm like, oh man, because you're not wrong. Like we are all exactly where we're supposed to be. And sometimes, again, what Megan said, and we all agree, social media very quickly, if you allow your headspace to go there, makes you go, oh, like I'm behind. It happened to me yesterday. I was kind of in a funk. And my girlfriend, she asked me, she's like, hey, how you doing? I was like, I'm kind of in a funk. And she goes, well, why? And I was like, for no reason. I just feel like I'm really behind on everything I'm doing
in life. Like
I should be 35 right now, not 33. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I don't even know. Okay, I'm just behind. And it's this weird feeling that everyone is just light years ahead or whatever. And we make it up in our
none of it's real. It's all a construct.
We just make it up.
Yeah.
Sometimes I tell people, as goofy as it may sound, is like, none of this is real. It's all a projection or like a simulation, right? And then people will laugh and then they go, yeah, but isn't it? And I'm like, okay, I don't know, man. I need to go eat lunch. I'll see,
Yeah, well, even, sim theory is an interesting theory, but even if we do live in the real world, these other metrics are arbitrary that we made up, like expectations of age and career and
Right.
salary and, it's all, we get to decide like what's important or not, both as a society and personally.
Yeah.
I had someone say to me, I was talking to them about, I want to figure out how to make more money, right? Just so I can be a
Hmm.
little bit more financially free. And they're like, well, what makes you feel that way? And I was like, well, there's these certain things that I want that I feel like, with money, whatever. And she brought up a conversation we had before of being grateful. And one thing that I've always been really grateful for is because I was such a hyperactive kid growing up, I did not stop moving. As soon as I got home from school, it was like, hey, mom, dad, can I get on my bike? Can I go right around the block? And they'd be like, absolutely. Cause otherwise, like, you're not going to sleep anyway. Right.
Yeah.
And, I never was interested in sports, but I love to run. So they tried to like nudge me into like do cross country, go do track. And again, I would compare myself to other kids and I was like, I'm not a runner. I liked running, but I was not a runner. And then
Sure.
weightlifting was the thing that I kind of fell in love with, right? And when I was talking to her about it, because she's a personal trainer, she was like, whenever you're grateful, are you grateful for being able to like work out and have a passion? I was like, absolutely, right. um and then that passion led me into having a passion for food, which sometimes is healthy and sometimes it's not, like, I'll be honest about that, right?
Yeah.
um
Passion
and
for like
so
for
it's
cooking food or
He likes
what about
eating
food?
I
mainly.
like to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
might sound rude, but I think the best way to describe me is I'm a fat kid who wants to eat all the cake. And people like,
Okay.
you're not fat. And I'm like, I'm not saying I'm fat. I'm saying I'm a fat kid who wants all the cake. Like, that's what I,
In your heart, like deep
in my
down.
heart
Inside.
and
Yeah.
soul, you
Yeah.
just give me a buffet and let me go at it. Right.
You're a fat kid in the
Um,
body of a personal trainer.
Yeah.
yeah, it's a really weird dynamic,
It's the
the
irony.
duality. Yeah. And so so she was trying to just get me to look at the whole truth of, I have a lot to be grateful for, but it's really easy for us, especially looking at everyone else's lives and comparing, to go, well, I don't have that, right? Like, I don't, like, I'll see someone's adorable dog, like Megan here, and I'll be like, I don't have an adorable dog. And it's like,
Mm.
I'm not ready to have an adorable dog.
You
I
can,
think
yeah,
dogs are
you can borrow
dogs
one.
are yeah. I think dogs are equally as demanding as having a kid. Like, it relies on you, And
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
anyway, that whole tangent to be like, I'm not ready for a fur baby, I'm just not ready, guys. Okay.
that was the takeaway. It kind of leads
Hey, no
me
pressure.
into a question for you, Jeff, about was there or is there like, do you feel yourself measuring yourself against other TikTokers, other creators? And then do you kind of check yourself and go, hey, I've actually done a great job. I'm like happy with where I'm at.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would say that's definitely like my default mode is just to be jealous of other people or to be unsatisfied. And I feel like I know intellectually that no matter what level of success or how much money or whatever, no matter what I get, I'll never be satisfied. Like you always hear the stories about like the celebrity billionaire who takes their own life. And, it's just a kind of tale as old as time, right? That like the
Right.
human condition never being satisfied. So it's like I feel like I understand that intellectually, but yeah, emotionally, again, I default to that sort of um, immature mentality of wanting more and being jealous and stuff like that. So I feel like that I have to do the work to like
Yeah.
remind myself the healthier perspective, like you said, Megan, of yeah, I have had success. I'm very fortunate to be where I am. And, um, I mean, I've seen this meme going around a lot. Like, it's kind of cliche, but it's so true. Of like, think about like your past self when like how much you wanted what you currently have now, and like you knew you would appreciate it then, and now that you have it, you take it for granted.
Yeah. Now you
Right.
don't care. Yeah. Which
Hmm.
is
I,
crazy to think about. I think all of us probably, if we go back 10 years, and that person that we were sees where we are now, they'd be like, wow, that's more than I expected. And they're still trying to keep going. Okay, whatever.
I mean, just if I could meet myself 10 years ago, it'd be like, wow, you have a mustache? Like, it finally happened.
Right.
That's all I ever
and then you
wanted.
just high five. Yeah.
I wonder, so when I was like 13 or 14, I really wanted to drive. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to, but I really wanted to drive. And then when I did drive, I've had 2 minivans in my life. And I think if the Sam that was driving the minivan knew I was driving a Hyundai Elantra now, he'd have been like, bravo, you're driving a go-kart, you know? But I think like 10 years ago or even 15 years ago, I would have been surprised, like, oh wow, you did it, buddy. You got out of the minivan and you made it to a Hyundai. Wow.
Yeah.
But that's a great point.
Yeah, and I think I liked your point on like there's a difference in between intellectually you can go, I know like how I feel about like how I think about this and what's actually happening, and that I'm in a good place, but emotionally like that's hard to regulate. And that's where you go, well, I want what they have. That looks really nice. Why don't I have that thing or that experience or whatever, that house in the mountains or that, boat or whatever it is.
Sure.
And it's not that it wouldn't make you happier. It's just you're happy now and you don't have to ruin that happiness now with this crazy pipe dream that like you haven't actually gotten to yet. That could happen eventually.
It's all fleeting, right? So the simplicity of now compared to maybe 10 years from now, you might have the ability to live in like a mansion and you'd be like, man, I miss when it was just like you hear highly successful people talk about that first apartment, like, man, there was like squirrels living in the wall and it was horrible, the water didn't work right and blah blah blah, and it was like that was a really good time in my life in hindsight.
It's like those were the days. That's when I felt something.
Exactly. You always look back and you're like, oh, those are the good old days, but it's hard to make yourself appreciate it as it's going.
I have to have that conversation a lot, where oh man, I need to be making more money. And the reality is if I had $1 million fall into my lap tomorrow, whatever issues that are making me feel that way are still gonna be there. I just now have $1 million, right?
Yeah. No money, no problems.
Right. Exactly.
And that's the thing.
They got it right in those simple words.
You go buy a Lambo and you get a flat tire, it's over, right? Your whole paycheck is down the drain. Do you I think when I was younger, people tried to give me advice and I didn't get it, or I would just reject it because I knew everything by the time I was 14 years old, right? Is there anything that anyone ever said to you that they gave you advice that you think helped you get to where you are, right? I mean, obviously I kind of relate with you in terms of I do know there is a part of me that's never going to be fully satisfied. I'm never going to have that moment of I did it. Like I'm enjoying my life in the present moment the way I know I should, but I'm always trying to like, how do I get to the next part? Is there any advice that anyone's ever given you that kind of helped you maybe deal with feelings like that like maybe you utilize now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of like one specific thing. Like I've been trying to get into meditation the past couple years, like I've never been very disciplined about it, kind of go off and on, but I mean, reading a lot of different books on it, I feel like it's mostly the same message of the things we've been talking about, of being present in the moment. Like all we have is the present moment. This idea of that's the only reality that actually exists is the right now, because the past is just a memory. It only exists in your mind, and the future is just whatever you can predict may happen, but is not the current reality. And so if you're not happy now, you're never going to be happy. That sort of mentality, which again is like, it's never default for me. It's like I have to remind myself to try to think that way. Right. It's like work to try to make myself think that way. But
have you read the book The Power of Now?
I've not. No.
And again, you're not wrong. Like that whole community or that topic, it's all very similar. That was the book that said exactly what you said to me. I remember driving, listening to it on Audible, and we're all aware of it. Now is the only moment, right? Like even 30 minutes ago, while we were having this conversation, that doesn't exist anymore. This is it right here,
right
now, right?
Oh, it is recorded.
Yeah. If
No,
it didn't
it's
exist,
right
we
now.
might have a
If
problem.
you're listening to this, it is literally live, 100%.
It was 20 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
We could do the Shining ending where like we've been dead for 200 years or whatever.
If you're listening to this podcast in 2050,
right.
Good luck out there. Oh, wow. Hopefully the climate, hopefully the ozone still exists.
Yeah, hopefully the earth didn't explode or something.
See, you guys with that route, I was like, I hope you guys don't have flying cars yet, because we still haven't figured out how to drive on flat land. And if there's flying cars by 2050, ooh, doggy. I don't know. I love those movies though. One of my favorite movies is The Fifth Element. But it happens. It happens in Star Wars and stuff, right? Where there's that scene, and I mean, it's just, and you're like, there is no rhyme or reason here. How did we get here, and how are we not all dying? Like, we can't drive in cookie cutter lines on a road. You know, I blame cell phones, but
I remember seeing an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson where someone was asking him why, it's 2020 or 2021. Why do we not have flying cars? And his answer was like, oh, well, when you think about it, we do have flying cars because we have bridges that help us go over. We have tunnels that help us go under. It was like such a lame, disappointing answer. But I guess in a way, it's the ultimate, like, you should just be grateful for what you have.
Yeah.
Right.
All I can imagine is a stoner watching that and being like, oh my God, my car's been flying this whole time.
Like they hit up their buddy and they're like, all right, dude, my car can fly. And they're like, what? And they'd be like, no, let me show you. And they're like, okay. And they get in there and they just drive across the Golden Gate Bridge. Look, dude, we're flying. Oh my goodness.
Classic Neil, though.
I like that though. I'm going to start using that.
He was saying, I mean, not literally fly. He was saying like it solves the problem of bumping into each other with traffic or whatever. But I mean, not really, because if you could fly, then that's like having infinite bridges.
Yeah, you can go like any direction. Yeah.
One bridge that goes over the water. Yeah.
That would be a weird superpower, wouldn't it? Hey, what can you do? Bridges? I can make a bridge. Yeah, I can just make a bridge. Poof. And it'd be like, that's kind of dumb. But I'm like, I can make a bridge to the moon. Which I mean, Jeff Bezos didn't he do that? Like he
don't bring him up.
I think it's so crazy that it was like,
I can't believe him.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna fly. I don't even think he went to like deep space. I think technically he was still
went to like barely space, so he could say he went to space.
Yeah,
right.
But he went farther than Richard Branson, who's like his personal competitor.
Oh my gosh,
two billionaires.
Yeah.
And then he like thanked all of his like Amazon workers and Amazon customers. He's like, you paid for this, and it's like,
right? Like,
his workers in those warehouses are like, I hate you.
I guarantee there was like a standing like they shut down the warehouse or like the offices and everything, and people are just cheering the TV as it like, oh man, Jeff Bezos is gonna come for us. All right, we're gonna play out by listening to Jeff Bezos by
Bo Burnham.
Yeah, we're gonna do
Jeffrey Bezos.
Dude. I love the song, right? Like it's so catchy. But I wonder what Jeff Bezos goes. Like, is he sitting?
I bet he plays it on a loop because he's a lunatic. Like he's just a crazy rich person.
While he's flying.
While he's pumping iron.
Yeah.
he's in the seat, like getting ready to take off, and he's like doing bicep curls, and they're like, Jeff, what are you doing? And he's like, listen, man, I got to get a pump before we go to the moon. Okay, Jeff, you're not going to the moon. Okay.
And the background's just Jeffrey Bezos.
Yeah. That's what this podcast does, man.
Have you guys had Bo on the podcast yet? He'd be a great one to talk to.
I would love to talk to Bo. I feel like
creative process.
He would be fascinating. I'd do like a 4-hour thing. I'd be like, hey, I need a day. And I'm just gonna pick your brain. But I feel like he's pretty reclusive, so that might be hard.
Yeah.
And that's what's surprising to me is maybe I guess he did touch on that slightly, right? Because he did, of course, now I can't think of what it's called. He did the one before Inside, not Make Happy. Was it Make Happy?
I think Make Happy was his last stand-up special
Yeah.
before he like went into retirement. Or I mean,
It was like
took a
5
break.
years, yeah, that he didn't
Yeah,
make
so
anything.
so it was Make Happy, right? So
Yeah.
he just disappeared, and I remember being like, he'll be back, right? And little did I know it was going to be that. But he talked about how he did it, and then he just kind of was like, I need a moment, and that moment turned into, I guess, like a 5-year thing. So I'm wondering if this time it's going to be 10 years.
Oh, God.
It got pretty dark on that last one.
I think it got real.
yeah.
Like I honestly, like, some people were like, oh, that made me really sad. And then you see those TikToks where people are like, I'm gonna watch Bo Burnham, and then it's them sitting on their couch, like zoned out. But I think it's just real. He got real. Like, everyone went through something like that in COVID.
Sure.
Yeah, that was interesting to me because like all my friends watched it and my wife watched it, and it was interesting to see the different reactions because like obviously like I identified with a lot of the anxiety and despair. Like, I mean, I've never been suicidal, so I didn't identify with it going that dark. But yeah, for sure the bouts of depression and isolation and stuff like that. But for me, like, I feel like my overall takeaway was I was inspired by like the idea of, you lock yourself in a room and you kind of like channel your anxiety and do something creative with it. Versus my wife was like, yeah, I was depressed before, and then like now that I watched it, I'm even more depressed. Like, she was like, if you're depressed, maybe
Right.
don't watch it right now. So that's
Yeah.
interesting. People have different reactions to it.
I mean, people said to me, they were like, well, I don't understand why you do that to yourself, like lock yourself in a room and then not allow yourself to leave. And I was like, well, there were a lot of people that's kind of like based on wherever they lived. That's kind of what happened,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and I think where I really commend him is he had a vision and he was like, hey, I'm not stopping until I get there. And he had the ability to do it, right? Maybe he had enough money, he had the resources, right?
Oh yeah.
But then, like, I think there were literally people who were like, he never left that room. I was like, how did he get food and stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, he
Yeah.
at least went outside and got a little bit of like sunshine. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't.
I'm pretty
lock
sure
himself.
he has a romantic partner he lives with. I
Yeah.
think that was their like guest house. And
Yeah,
that's
he
like
has a
where he
mansion
did
on
all
the
his
other
work.
side.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's certainly things you could criticize about the special, like him being disingenuous and pretending to be all alone when obviously he's a wealthy enough person. He had the option to just, get takeout every night and not make a special.
Yeah, I think he was just trying to capture concentrated feelings,
Yeah.
and maybe not all of it was like in the moment real, but it's something he felt, obviously, from where he like pulled it from.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was exciting to just to see him go, okay, hey, this is my concept, this is how we're gonna do it. White woman Instagram.
Oh my gosh.
When that came on, and he literally just took that aesthetic and like turned it into a video, and I was like, I'm gonna start doing my Instagram like this. I'm sold. Like,
have you seen the videos of girls on TikTok and they do like side by side comparisons?
Yeah,
and it's like
showing how accurate it is.
It's spot on.
He did like months of research of white women on Instagram.
He was just like classifying them into different types of pictures, and he's like, I've got the perfect formula. Here we go.
The one that got me was the turning 30 one, and like this we were talking about earlier with like the fact that you'll never be satisfied. Like that helped me feel validated because I also turned 30 like during quarantine, and not that I was depressed about that. I was just like, I had these feelings of like, oh, I'm, my life is like a third of the way over, and have I done enough? I wish I would have been. I thought it'd be farther than I was now, or whatever. All those like feelings of failure when you reach a certain age milestone, and then to see Bo Burnham, just a guy who has been very successful from a very young age. Like, he's accomplished so much creatively, like as much as you could possibly hope to accomplish creatively by the time you're that age. And he's still having this existential crisis and dancing in his underwear, complaining about it.
Yeah. It affects everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. We all feel this way, and it's okay to indulge in those feelings sometimes.
Yeah.
I almost caught myself holding my breath because he's like, and I'm just gonna enjoy my 20s. And then he looks at the clock, and I mean, it was what, maybe 20 seconds, and I'm just like, I'm just waiting, like, oh, is it gonna change? And I guess because he's kind of unpredictable, that's why I think I enjoy watching, especially for the first time. You're just like, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what he's gonna do. And then the second time I watch it, I just try to enjoy it. But I for a split second there, just thought it was gonna be like that for like 5 minutes, where we're just waiting for it to go click. And then no, he kept it definitely in that moment.
You could have held your breath. Yeah.
Yeah, I could have made it. I could have, well, I don't know. I don't have that great a lung capacity, but I do wonder how sincere that was, and I'm gonna just choose to believe that he was 29 years old. He was waiting until midnight to be like, hey, it's my 30th birthday, and he just went. But I agree with you 100%. I had to get to a point. I didn't care that I turned 30. I think I had already prepped my mind of when I turned 30, whatever, right? Whatever. Yeah. And a lot of people, oddly enough, even though that's how I felt, were like, man, 30 is the new 20. Like, oh yeah, this is where you shine in your life. And then I turned 31 and people are like, you're older than dinosaurs. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, what? And they're like, yeah, your life's over. Good. Hey, good job, man. You did it. You did a great job.
I had I think I told you this story, Sam. I think I was turning 23 or 24, and I was having a quarter life crisis, like full blown, like existential mode. I think it was when I was changing jobs and like I didn't know what I was doing and all of that. And I was acting weird for weeks, and my best friend was still living with us. And she looks at me one day and she's like, I figured it out. You're just getting old. And just started laughing because my birthday was coming up. It was like in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
And I think that's natural, like, because it's a measurement of time. Like, it's just making you a little anxious because it's just saying, hey, so you've been here for this long. But then we start to, like we talked about earlier, measure ourselves and go, well, what have I done in this time that I've been here?
That crazy comparison kicks in.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing that's really strange, and maybe either one of you have felt this, where I remember being a kid, right? And I remember, like, I'm in high school, I'm getting closer to 18. They're like, hey, you got to make big decisions. College is coming. You're about to be an adult. You become an adult. No one really cares. They're like, just go get a job, figure it out. Now you're 25. Now you're getting on to 30. And there's still a part of me that feels like that kid, right? Like, I don't know if you want to call it like a 100%. Soul or whatever. But, I've had so many people just say it out loud of, I don't think I'm ever going to feel grown up. And I was like, because you're still the same person you were when you were a kid, when you were like, 8 or 9, and that personality really started to kind of sink its hooks in of kind of the essence of who you are. I mean, the brain, what is it? 29 is roughly where like the brain's like, all right, it is what it is, guys. Like, let's see what happens with this. But I think that personality of who you are and what you pulled from, whatever your village was, really starts to settle in. And that's the thing. You remember being that person as a little kid, playing with those toys, being naive and whatever. And even though you're learning and your ignorance kind of starts to dissolve, right, in some form or fashion, you still feel that way. Like, I still feel young. I mean, don't make me try to run 3 miles. I'll probably cry and pass out, but
yeah,
you know what I mean?
I think for me, it makes me think of like the lack of certainty in life. The fact when I was a kid, it's like I didn't know what was going on. It's like, but my mom would take me to the dentist, and she was the one who did all the paperwork. And it's like, okay, when I'm a kid and I have no idea, I'm just like going where people tell me to go. But when I'm an adult, then I'll like actually understand things, and I'll like, know how taxes work and whatever.
Still haven't figured that out. Yeah,
exactly. I think that's sort of a reality that you kind of learn when you become an adult, is like you still don't know how the world works. You don't understand anything. We're all just figuring it out as we go.
I think it's a great point, because I don't remember who said it, but basically just nobody knows what they're doing all the time.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
some people are very confident and they're very, very good. Like I work in business, so some people just present themselves well, and that's how they've gotten so far, or they look so put together. But literally everyone's winging it, and it's just your combination of experience and luck and the people you have around you. And it's hard to accept that you don't have control over like a lot of it. Yeah.
Fake it till you make it. I mean, that was something that was a piece of advice. I don't remember where I got it. I think it was from a book, maybe, of just like when you're first starting out, like as a graphic designer, and like you're gonna feel like the need to couch it if someone asks you what you do. Because I felt that was like, I didn't want to say I'm a graphic designer. I wanted to feel like I'm an aspiring graphic designer, or I'm working on becoming a graphic designer. And it's like, no, you have to just like say that's what you are. And then people will take you seriously and give you real work. And then you'll get experience through the work and become the thing that you want it to be.
Yeah. So the first time I think I was told it and had the realization of, everyone's just doing the thing. No one knows what's going on. They're faking it till they make it.
Yeah.
The first feeling I felt was, oh, I'm supposed to take this and go, oh, that's a relief, because I don't know what I'm doing either. And like, none of us do. And then I was like, okay, wait, so the guy that's changing my brakes doesn't know what he's doing? We're like, wait, so I'm about to go get a root canal and this guy doesn't know what he's doing? Like, he's just faking it? How did he get this? The president of the United States just like got there because he faked it. Right. And so the thing is people are like, hey man, you're having a panic attack. Like, just breathe.
I just imagine you like hyperventilating and being like, who's real?
Like the person scooping my ice cream at Baskin Robbins doesn't know how to scoop ice cream. I don't understand. Hey, so it's about that time, Jef. And one thing I like to do is I like to ask the question of, if you were to leave, maybe like a thought or maybe advice or anything in terms of you're able to just kind of take the floor and just be like, hey, this is something that I think people need to know that I've learned. And it can be about, dealing with failure or a mindset of failure, or it could just be something that really has helped you in your life. Is there anything that comes to mind that you would want to share? It's a big question.
Oh man. Yeah.
No pressure.
Sure. I think something that I think is important for people to know that not everyone knows is that everyone is creative and everyone should engage in creativity. And that's a much broader umbrella than just drawing or painting or graphic design or whatever. Because that's something people tell me a lot, right? Because I'm like, my career is as a creative, and people are like, oh, I'm never creative. I'm not creative. I could never do what you do. And of course, like, people can be creative in different ways. But anyway, just like, I think that's important for people to have some level of like inner confidence that, you can do stuff. Like, it's important to make stuff just for fun. And even if it doesn't lead to like paying jobs or lead to a lot of views or anything, like, creativity is its own reward. So that's something I always want to encourage people to do.
I love that.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Well, he nailed that.
Yeah.
No, I love that. And I'm probably gonna go create something just to be like, Jef said.
Yeah, go make a TikTok of just you talking. About something that's on your mind.
Guys.
Yeah.
One day I have a feeling I'm gonna reach out to you and maybe like, hey man, you were right. And I appreciate that. So that's future me thanking you now. So when people are listening to this in 2050,
even the future year doesn't even exist right now.
Oh gosh.
Right. Awesome. I'm really glad you were able to be on the show with us today. I know Megan and I were both pretty excited about it. So thanks again for being on here.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I was excited too. It was an honor to hang out with you guys.
Yeah.
It was great.
Time flies when you're having fun too, because I mean, bloop.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Megan, you know what to do.
It is outro time. Yeah. So I just wanted to thank Jef and call out his TikTok and website again. It's at Jef Caine on TikTok and jefcaine.com for his website. We will definitely like link
Jef
stuff.
with one F.
Jef with one F. Yeah, we'll make that clarifying statement. Jef with one F. That could be on a t-shirt. got distracted there. But we'll also tag him in all of our posts as well, so he'll be easy to find. And you can rate, follow, subscribe. And our favorite part, Sam and I have good old Ethel on our voicemail. You can call in your failures at 916-304-3545, or you can email them in to friendsoffailurepodcast@gmail.com. And that can be a failure story that's funny, a failure story that taught you a lesson. Do whatever you want. And if this is the first episode you're listening to and you don't know who Ethel is, we have this phone number that's supposed to be our voicemail, and we still don't know if it's an old lady on the other side or if it's actually our voicemail, quote unquote. So we'll see what Ethel gets in the next week or two.
We're just hoping Google is like putting it in a voicemail for us, but it might be maybe she's enjoying it. We don't know. She's possibly, not real. So we'll see. No, that's great. I'm not gonna lie to you. I did try calling the number, and I think I left a voicemail, and I don't know if we ever got it. So maybe Ethel did. It's in the cyberspace of Google. We'll find out.
I'll find Ethel and figure it out somewhere in there.
Yeah, perfect. So last thing that we always like to leave with is our little closing statement, which is life is happening for you, not to you. So go out there and fail.
If it's not I'm stronger than you, it's I'm wiser than you, I'm more loving than you, I'm more tolerant than you, I'm more sophisticated than you. It doesn't matter what it is, but this constant competition is going on. This is the secret. This is the secret. You can't make a mistake.